Ollama provides the best way to build with open models. It serves two kinds of models, those that are hosted on the internet and those you can download and host on your machine. This video will show you how to use Ollama Cloud hosted models in Xcode 27. If you visit the models page on Ollama, we have all these kinds of models. Those that are labeled cloud are the internet hosted models. With those without a cloud tag, you can download them on your machine and run with Ollama, and also use in Xcode as well. However, in this video, we are just interested in those hosted in the cloud, like GLM 5.2. Since the models are hosted in the cloud, we don't need to download them. So all you need is to sign in to your Ollama account and grab an API key. So you can use any of these options. I have already signed in and generated an API key, so I'm not going to continue from here. So let's look at the steps needed to bring an Ollama hosted cloud model to Xcode 27. It requires only two steps. First, we need the Ollama credentials, like I just showed you. You should sign into your Ollama account and generate an API key. Next, we use the API credentials to configure Xcode to work successfully with the hosted Ollama models. When you visit the intelligence settings in Xcode, you need to specify all these fields in order to get the hosted Ollama model working. But before you configure these fields in Xcode 27, you need to export your API key. That is the Ollama API key. So you copy this command and go to the terminal. Then you paste it here. You need to replace the periods with your actual Ollama API key and run the command to store the API key in the terminal. An alternative way is to store the Ollama API key permanently on your machine. This can be done by visiting the home directory by pressing Shift Command and H. You can store the API key in two files, in your .zshrc file or your .zpro file. These are all hidden files on the Mac, so to reveal them, you should press Shift Command and period. You have noticed here, we have .zshrc, and over here, we also have zpro file. So you open any of these files to store the Ollama API key. Once you store the key this way, you can move on to Xcode and go to the intelligence settings. Over here, you need to click the Xcode menu and select settings. Under settings, you go to intelligence and scroll down. There are several ways to bring coding agents into Xcode 27. If I scroll up a bit, you can see you can bring agents from major providers like Anthropic, OpenAI, and Gemini. Aside bringing an agent to Xcode 27, if I scroll down, you have noticed we have an option to add a chat provider. This is how you can bring an Ollama model into Xcode. So you should click Add a chat provider. With the chat provider, you have two options, internet hosted and locally hosted. For locally hosted, that is what I told you earlier in this video. These are the models you download to your computer. However, for internet hosted, you need a cloud model, like those hosted on Ollama. So that is the purpose of this video. For that, we need a URL. So I'll go to the browser again. We need the Ollama URL. I'll copy that and paste it here. The API key is optional, but I prefer adding it here. The API key header should also be authorization. Next, you should specify the description of your chat provider. So let's call it Ollama Cloud. So these are all the fields you need to bring a hosted Ollama model into Xcode 27. Once you fill all these fields, you need to click Add in order to make the hosted models available in Xcode 27. I have already added it, so I'm going to cancel it. So once you add the hosted models from Ollama, you can use them in a new chat conversation. To do that, you go to the toolbar and click this button. You have noticed here we have GPT-5. However, we want to use our hosted Ollama model. So we go to the top left of the toolbar instead and click the coding assistant. Over here, you can start a new conversation or add a new group. Let's click New Conversation. We have several options to use agents from different providers. If I go to the chat section, you can see we have the Ollama Cloud option and we have all these models available to select If I visit the Ollama website again and go to models, over here, their latest is GLM 5.2, so they recommend using this one for long horizon tasks and for agentic coding. So we can pick this model to start a new conversation in Xcode 27. I'll go to Ollama Cloud and select GLM 5.2. So you can go ahead and specify your prompt to start working with GLM 5.2.